All right.
Okay.
Continue.
Alicia, it's all yours.
Okay, so it is 1:30, and I think we're gonna kick things off on time. So welcome everybody. I can't see exactly. So we have, okay, so there's 68 participants, but over 130, I think, registered, and I think they're slowly trickling in. So it's quite an exciting time for us. And welcome everybody to the first AlphaPlus virtual showcase. It's a series that we're running through the summer. And this is our first session, which is cleverly entitled Fighting the Zoombie Fatigue, right? Making online learning more human for teachers and learners. And we're excited to have some very wonderful presentations from our guests today. And before we dive right in, I'll just do a little intro and present our team, so AlphaPlus. Well, my name's Alethea, so I will be trying to host this event. And we have also, I'm joined by my colleagues, Monica and Tracy. So Monica will facilitate the tech Q&A portion, which will be later today. And then Tracy is our chat hero, so moderating the different comments and questions that come up in the chat, which you are also free to use. And then we also want to mention our other team members at AlphaPlus, so Alan, Christine, and Guylaine, who aren't here presenting with us today, but are definitely an integral part of our team at AlphaPlus. So that's from us, a warm welcome from the AlphaPlus team. And then as we transition to the meeting, just a few general housekeeping and online etiquette reminders. So first we have Gloria and Peggy with us, who will be doing the ASL interpretation. And as a result, because our group is also quite large, we would just ask if you could please keep your microphone muted unless there's a breakout room and an activity. As well, if you do have issues with connectivity, you can consider turning off your video, and that will improve the bandwidth speed. And then as mentioned earlier, please feel free to use the chat to post your questions and comments. And as well, if you do want to signal any reaction or engage, feel free to use the reactions should be at the bottom of your screen. There's a tray and you can use the reactions there. The session will be recorded as well, just so everybody is aware. Okay, and so now we're gonna move on to presenting the guests that we have joining us today. So we are so honored to have these three organizations joining us today. The first, and this is just an alphabetical, so we have Humber College, Parkdale Project Read, and Simcoe County District School Board. And from Humber, we're joined by Therese, Margarita, and Marlin. And these are their respective responsibilities at Humber. And so we're very, very happy to have them sharing their experiences with us. And then at Parkdale Project Read, we're joined by Mary and Ida. Also very, very glad to have this setup with the program, but also getting to hear a perspective from a learner. So that's very exciting for us. And then from Simcoe, we have Charlotte and Sue Ellen. So thank you to all of our guest organizations for being here and sharing your experiences with us and the rest of the literacy community. This is wonderful, and we look forward to learning a lot more about what you have learned. And in terms of our agenda today, this is just a very rough breakdown of how things will play out. So in the first hour and a half, we'll have a discussion with these guest presenters that we've just introduced. And then following these discussions, we'll have a informal breakout room where you'll be able to engage with other participants in this session and go over some highlights and ask questions and continue the conversation. And then we'll have a break. So just a 15-minute break. And then when we resume from the break, it'll be a tech Q&A that will be hosted and moderated by Monica, and she has prepared some very, very excellent tips. So I would really recommend that you don't miss out, because it's quite interesting to hear those different tips, but also it's an opportunity for you to ask questions as well if you have any. So with that, I hope everything is, everything's cleared up. So I'm gonna move right into the discussion then, if that's all right with everyone. So we have actually 3 guiding questions, okay? And so the first question, there you can see it. So the first question we have to kind of guide the discussion around the themes of this session is, how do you break down remote learning norms so that learners can communicate authentically in synchronous online classes? So this is a question that's kind of a launch pad for our different programs to engage in this discussion around how they've been able to experiment, explore, and share with us what they've learned. And so we're quite excited to have a learner, as I mentioned, from Parkdale Project Read join us today. And I was wondering, maybe we could start with this program. So if the guests from Parkdale Project Read are ready to go, we'd love to hear from you. Are there any, and if there are any slides that you need to share, let me know too, so we can share that. Also, you may be on mute, so I can't see everybody. So please, if you're speaking, if you can unmute.
I think, sorry, Alethea, I don't think Ida's in yet.
Okay.
And I can see Mary's on the phone, so she may be
Okay.
talking to Ida.
Okay. Okay. Thanks for that update, Tracy. Great. Thank you. Okay. So then in that case, could we move then to hear from the coordinators and instructors at Simcoe County, if y'all are ready?
Charlotte and Sue Ellen.
Mm-hmm.
Hi there, it's Charlotte.
Hi, it's
Start, and then I'm going to have Sue Ellen actually go into all of the details because she's the facilitator that actually was running the classes. So as the coordinator, one of the things that we really had to sort of switch when we started going to remote learning was making sure we opened up the communication to all of the learners, facilitators, everybody else involved. So everybody knew exactly what was going on. But that communication had to happen either through phone calls or emails. We even used texting. Whereas in the past, we were so used to talking to our learners, they might be coming down the hall and we stop them and say, oh, by the way, there was a little change and we're doing this now. Or, when we'd see them, we could talk to them. We had to make sure that we communicated. And one of the things we tried to do as well, I think, was making sure we copy each other on all of our emails. So even if we were communicating with one of the clients or learners that maybe might not affect anybody else, we found that it was still important to copy other people on it because it may have some effect later. And then you're trying to catch up, with what was happening. So I think that's just one of the things as far as, planning and getting everything organized. But I'm going to leave it now to Sue Ellen, and she can talk more about when you're actually in the online classes.
Great.
Yeah, so hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
You can? Okay, sorry, I've switched my speakers. There's another thing about online learning. Yeah, so it's been quite a learning curve. What I've really noticed, so I've done groups, we've been facilitating groups, but I've also been doing one-on-one learning with my students through Zoom, and I find them quite different and I use different techniques. So I think there's a real fear of being bored online, that norm that you're sitting at a computer. So it's honestly just by, I'm sure you've all learned this, just by hands-on and doing it over and over again. What I found is there needs to be an emotional connection. So when you're in a classroom in real person, I think everybody probably notices you get to know your students, you get to know the people. There's that connection with each other. And that's what's lacking virtually. So my whole thing moving forward, is trying the first thing, like even the first day of a session, I will show a personal picture. Like instead of just talking about myself now, I might like not too personal. I'll throw a picture of myself up and my dogs because I love dogs. Maybe if I love like just a couple generic pictures to talk about myself to get that connection immediately. And I really encourage my learners to show something almost like a show and tell, like they want to talk about. And if there's a barrier to, you know, sharing a screen, because we all have those IT issues, I just even get them to maybe have a picture and hold it up to the camera. I've really noticed a big difference getting people to turn their camera on and having that human connection. I don't know what it is, but I can't believe the difference. Even me just showing photos, I don't know what it is. That's the number one thing that I do, that connection, and also keeping the chat open. Instead of them just being able to message me, I now allow everybody to direct message each other, because in a classroom, you might have a side conversation with somebody. People are, you know, they want that emotional connection. So I am fine if somebody wants to chat with their classmate while I'm talking. It's that connection, and they share resources. I just did a workshop back in April, and it was only a short week one. However, they bonded so much through the direct messaging, sharing resources. They now meet weekly through Zoom because they connected so well. So I keep my chat open. I have chat storms. So some people don't like to have their camera on. We have chat storms constantly, like brainstorms. I really try to make it personal. And another, I wish I could, you know, small breakout rooms, lots of breaks, to try to make it as normal as I can. I'm really trying to have my students connect with each other. One-on-one, it's not as easy, especially if they don't want to turn their camera on. And I'm sure everybody's experienced that. Again, I put it on myself. Please turn your camera on. You know, I really try to put on myself that I need to see their faces, even just for a minute, so I can have a connection. Otherwise, it's just a voice. So that's been my biggest, like turning your camera on and getting that human connection to get people engaged with each other and with what you're presenting or talking about.
I like what you're sharing, because it seems like it's, I mean, it goes back, it really goes back to the theme of the session, which is originally about how to make teaching and learning more human, you know?
Yes.
And I like the points you spoke to that revealed not just, I feel like I was hearing things about how to make it human for the learner. So for example, giving them breaks, allowing them to show, you know, personal photos or having side chats, but also speaking to the experience of the teacher too. So as a teacher, you know, having the human connection, being able to see your learners, even if it's just for a minute, you know, and I think that changes the whole experience and the whole relationship. So I really appreciate what you shared, because it touches both the learner's experience and the teacher's experience as well, in making the whole thing more human. So
it makes it so much. And even my first session now, I can share it. I have these 25 questions. They're questions like crazy questions, and I put them in pairs, and I have them ask each other 5. They choose 5 out of the 25 questions, and then they introduce their partner. So right off the first day I do that, put them into pairs and say, choose, and they're really generic questions like, you know, who's your hero? What was the first music concert you went to? Like, you can pick 5, and then they introduce each other. And it's a great icebreaker, and my students, and then I connect with them, because I learn, you just don't have that side chatter like you do in a real classroom. So I'm really trying to stimulate that side chatter and that connection, so they want to come. You know what I mean? I want them to want to come to class.
Yeah. Oh, I like the intentionality that you put into reflecting on how you can make it as close as possible to, or like have those elements there that will make the environment feel welcoming, and kind of remove the barrier of, like, we know it's remote learning, we know we can't see them face to face, but still being intentional about how you can experiment or integrate different activities to still create an authentic, you know, environment. So
Yes.
I like that. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. It's really, really
This
great.
is Monica, Alita. Just to Ellen, I know you mentioned you may have some slides or resources you may want to share. If you want to share them now, that's great. Or you can do it, we can share it as a follow-up with the email after the session.
I can just share them after and also the web page. I found a great website for people. It's all picture brain teasers. So I throw that up always at the beginning when people join early. And it's just they're picture brain teasers. So everybody can see them. And it's such a great resource and it's free. So I will definitely share, and they have riddles and puzzles. It's great. So I'll share that maybe at the end, whatever you think's better.
Okay. Why don't you just send us the link and we will include it with the follow-up email for everyone. Perfect.
All right. Sounds fantastic.
That sounds great. I'm excited to see the picture brain teasers. That sounds very exciting.
They're hard.
Very interesting. Yeah. Looking forward to the challenge. So, okay. So, is there anything, Charlotte, that you wanted to add or that you feel like that sums it up pretty well?
Actually, I just wanted to add one thing. Some of the sessions are, anywhere 4 hours, sometimes 5 hours. 4 hours is the norm a day. So when we're talking about, the Zoom fatigue here, the cameras are a big thing. So I know that what Sue Ellen and some of our facilitators have started to do was not necessarily ask people to be on camera the whole time. That's what kind of causes a lot of the fatigue is you're constantly looking at yourself or looking at, everything that's going on. You wouldn't be normally doing that in a classroom, seeing everybody all at once. So there are specific times where cameras can be turned off. And I'm not sure if Sue Ellen, that's kind of when you have your chat storms or how that works, but we're not expecting people to have their cameras on all the time. So you have some kind of times where the facilitator will say, okay, well, this is a no camera zone or whatever. You can turn it off for a little bit. Or maybe just the person who's talking will turn the camera on, those kinds of things. I think that's a big difference too. Just having that little bit of time where you're not expected to be on camera. And I think it also helps for those people that are a little shy about being on the camera, knowing they don't have to be on the entire time.
Right.
Thank you for bringing that up, Charlotte. And what we've started to do is we send out paper resources before our workshops now, so they can turn their camera off. I can say, pull out worksheet 17 or whatever, turn your camera off. So they get that pen to paper and it's a break from doing something online. And students really appreciate having something paper-based. Sometimes that's like coloring or it's a quiz, whatever, and they can turn their camera off. I've also started sending the links to some of the videos in the chat saying you can turn your video off, watch it on your own. I mean, turn your camera off and watch the video on your own. And then we come back and talk about it. We mix it up. But sending out the paper-based has made a world of difference.
Interesting.
We're fortunate we can do that. Yes.
That's great. That's great to acknowledge the fact that even though, of course, it helps to build connection, but it can also be a source of fatigue if it's a constant, all the time. So I think it's quite interesting, the different ways that you've explored trying to alleviate that extra burden or stress of having the camera on all the time. Thinking about kind of like a very learner-centered approach to that solution. So it's great. Yeah, thanks for the addition, Charlotte and Sue Ellen. So I'm wondering if the next organization is ready to speak. So either Parkdale Project Read, I don't know what the status update is for Ida, if she was able to join in the end. Good, perfect. Thanks so much, Tracy, for supporting and Mary as well. So if y'all are ready to go, we'd love to hear your experiences as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us. We're with Parkdale Project Read, a community-based adult literacy program at King and Dufferin, and I'm here with Ida, who is a learner at Project Read. Are you with me, Ida?
Yes, Mary, I'm here.
Beautiful. Okay. I don't see you on my screen, but that's what happens, I guess, when there are so many people. So we were going to give, a kind of learner perspective of being online, doing remote learning, and then I was going to talk a little bit from a collective perspective. So Ida, do you have your interview questions in front of you?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'm going to just ask questions and you're going to answer. Okay. So what are some of the main differences between in-person groups and online groups?
It is a little bit different. We can see each other's, but we cannot touch each other's like we used to.
Yeah, that's true. Is there anything that's better about online groups than being in person?
We can still associate with each other's as a family. We come on Zoom, we see each other's, talk to each other's, we feel comfortable with each other's, and we could be in our house and doing our own duties. We are relaxed at home because we don't have to go home after group. There is no stress about wheel trans or taking TTC getting home. It's nice to have you guys in our home. I can show you my home. And we don't have to think about wearing a mask. It's hard to wear a mask. It felt so sick when wearing a mask. It makes me feel so uncomfortable. I rather to be online group without wearing a mask than in person. With a mask, you don't have to worry about wearing a mask, making mask taking online.
Thank you. Okay, so the next question is, what do you miss most about in-person groups?
Being together, reading and writing, going around the table, it is a lot different being all by ourselves here at home. Do not the program, not at the program to associate with others like we used to. Online group, we are having a lot of fun. But when the door is open and all of us come in at Parkdale Project Read, we can do lots of different things together. We can move around with each others.
So Ida, why do you come to the online group? Why do you come to the online groups every week?
It's a great group. I am blessed to know we have the group because without it, there would be so much stress during COVID. If we don't have online group, we would have so much stress. Thank God there was preparation made for us to be online. Because when I come to the group, I am so happy. It being comfortable, peace of mind. It helps me be more motivated within myself. Sometimes there is downfall. I feel frustrated. Meeting in the group, it's like you feel like you are among your family. We encourage each other's. We can't touch each other's, but we can still laugh and we play different types of games.
So what is helping to build community in online groups?
We are able to communicate with each others, to share things online, to send message out to other people, to let other people know about the group that we are having.
And what could we be doing differently to make it better?
Having more groups, spreading the good news about the online group to others who don't know about it. Each one teach one. Spread the word, pass the news on. Is
So
there
oh, that's my question. Is there anything?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, it's all good. Is there anything that's making it hard to build community during online groups?
Things get in the way. We have to be muted, and sometimes people are off camera, so we don't get to see each other's.
So have you been able to carry on with your reading and writing goals in online groups? How is it different?
Yes. Oh my God, yes. We are doing great. Still participating in reading and writing. The staff are doing a great job for us. And we are doing grammar. We are doing nouns, pronouns, verb, and adverbs.
Thanks, Ida. So what are some highlights for you from this past year online?
We sing together. We play different types of games, different activities. We have different types of things that we do to make each other feel like we are together. My favorite memories are the talent show where I sung a freedom song and making 2 videos. One where we sung, "Don't worry, be happy." The second video we did an Anansi story as a play.
Thanks, Ida. My last question for you is, what have you learned about yourself during this past year of remote learning?
I learned to have more confidence in myself because of online. I have gone through, because of illness that I have gone through. I tell myself, okay, you can do this. You can do this. You can make it. This was a very rough season, but I feel confident that all is going to be well. I know the group were here. I got so much calls from my sisters. Everyone wanted to know what was happening to me. When I recuperated, I listened to the phone calls and I cried so much. They were here for me, praying for me. My Parkdale, my second home. It brings tears to my eyes. If it wasn't for this place, Parkdale Project Read, I wouldn't be where I am today. Being such, Parkdale has been such an inspiration to me. Thank you so much, Parkdale, for being so good.
Thank you so much, Ida, for sharing your insights and reflections with us. That really says so much to get a learner perspective of what, I mean, that's what we're doing all of this for, is for the learners. So it's really helpful to hear, you know, what it's like, what it's been like. So amazing job, Ida. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary. I'm so blessed, and thank you guys so much for all the great job that you guys been doing for us at Parkdale. We are online, but we are grateful to know that you guys are there to help us through this hard time that we are going through with COVID-19.
Thank you so much, Ida.
Wow.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Wow. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mary and Ida, for that refreshing, I think the setup of, you know, having the question and answer was really interesting to get the perspective, and Ida sharing your experiences and your story. I feel like when we hear that, it kind of reminds us why we're doing this, right? It's really, really touching and really encouraging to hear. I mean, I was like taking notes the whole time, and something that really touched me. I mean, there are a lot of things that you said that really touched me, and maybe some in the audience, but you know, for example, when you said, it's nice to have you guys in our home, you know, it's like when we think about remote, like Zoom meetings, it's, I mean, sometimes we think, oh, it is a two-dimensional version, right, of the real space. But when you said that, it made me think of, wow, it's true that we can invite, in a sense, one another to each other's homes through this way, in an environment where you're relaxed, where you're comfortable. You know, so seeing things from that perspective was really, really helpful too. And I appreciate that a lot of what was brought out in this kind of story was the fact of, even though the COVID time has not been easy for anyone, I think, but the learner group is also for a community. And so that part, you know, beyond reading, learning, and learning adverbs and nouns, it was also that you found a family, you know, a group that could encourage you as you were passing through this difficult time. And I feel like that adds the human dimension again to this whole, you know, this whole experience, what we're talking about today. So thank you, Mary, for bringing this out. Thank you, Ida, for sharing your story. I'm hearing this for the first time, so this is not rehearsed or anything. I really appreciate, and I think everyone are quite inspired by and helped by this story. So thank you very, very much, Ida and Mary.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much. And I guess we will turn to Humber College now, if Humber is ready to share with us their experiences about the shift to remote learning.
Hi, everyone. My name is Therese Gormley Hermer. I am the manager of the Academic Upgrading Program at Humber College. And we thought we would share best practices from the administration and the office staff point of view. We've heard from a learner. In other webinars, many of you will have heard about the transition to teaching online. So we just wanted to present some of our best practices, just to provide something slightly different. So next slide. How do I get to the next slide? Okay.
First, I'm sharing.
Oh, thank you very much. So first of all, like everyone, it was quite a transition, and we couldn't have done it without a wonderful team. We truly are a very good team, and you'll hear shortly from both Margarita and Marlene. The key point that we noted, yep, you can go on to the second slide. Yeah, the most important thing was communication. And this slide just sort of shows the difference between when we were in our offices meeting students who would just come in from classes. And I apologize for the cat meowing. They knew I would turn on my microphone, and the cat and the dog decided to join this meeting. So emails has become our primary way of contacting students. We do also meet with them on MS Teams so that we can do screen sharing, and we do that with each other. So we also meet with other people throughout the college. We had to switch to provide online resources such as student access codes to publishers' textbooks. We use those for our computer lab and our vocabulary workbooks for our communications classes. We've created short videos where you can tell someone something in a short amount of time. Oftentimes, rather than repeat it multiple times, we can just direct them to a video. We've done online lunch and learns, which Marlene will tell you about, and the importance of sending reminder emails. Don't forget, this is coming up. We've provided lots of troubleshooting for new students who have trouble accessing our learning management system, which is Blackboard. IT provided 24/7 support, and we had the students very similar to what Ida was mentioning, where the community of students, many students have helped out each other. So we can go to the next slide. Yeah. So the tips I would provide is to stay connected with each other. So we connect regularly, and even if it's not planned, we can just phone, text, email, chat. We're focused on being very goal oriented. We have timelines and things have to get done. We're very clear and precise, where people can't read your body language. It's important that whatever you communicate is clear. And of course, it's probably true at the best of times, but particularly when you're in online. And just to make sure that you're always professional, and also remind the students and the people you work with about that. And there are challenges, as you all know, and a willingness to accommodate, and we will go into that shortly. For example, many of our students didn't have computers, and we had to sort of work with a partner to get them refurbished computers. Yeah, next slide, please. Okay, so this is just very quickly, you'll see, I'm going to go over these images sort of in a clockwise direction. The first one, our student support advisor, Marlene, created a very short informational video about academic upgrading. So you don't have to actually watch it, but it is available. It's on the MTML site as well. We meet through Microsoft Teams. We had to change the way we assess new students. So we now use the College Sector Committee Skills Marker, which other colleges do. It's online. Students do it. We get the results as soon as they've completed it. So that actually is an assessment we might keep. We've been very pleased with that. We also align then with the ACE distance. So if students choose to transfer, it's easier for them. My Humber is the portal for college students to access their academic records at Humber. Blackboard is the course management, learning management system. So we've done little tutorials for students to be able to do that. And we also do our orientations on Blackboard. We converted our milestones to SurveyMonkey so that we could complete them online. We also use Microsoft Forms for some things. And we switched the ministry registration form to an online form, since that has very sensitive information. We had to clear it with Humber's legal department and the marketing department and the company that manages our website. So it's like logging into a bank. It's very, very secure. All right, so next slide, please. Good. So I will turn you over to Margarita, who will give you an example of how we converted the learning style inventory form on SurveyMonkey for our learners. So over to you, Margarita.
Thanks, Therese. I'm Margarita Lava. I'm the Learning Services Assistant for Academic Upgrading. This is one of the ministry forms that we have students fill out at our orientation sessions. So it's just form to determine how best they learn, whether they learn best by virtual, kinesthetic, or visual. And so they just, in each section, they would have to check off the statements that best describes how they learn. And then they would number up the number of checks for each section, and whichever one has the most amount of checks, that would be their preferred learning style, whether it be visual, auditory, kinesthetic. So this is a form that we would give to them in person, but obviously we had to pivot it online due to COVID. And it's worked really well at the orientation sessions. Now I'll speak about the virtual graduation. Virtual graduation ceremony is one of the biggest highlights of our academic upgrading program, in which graduates look forward to receiving their certificates for completing the program. And we always get a very good turnout at the graduation ceremonies. Usually we would have we would host the graduation ceremony in person, but due to COVID, we had to pivot it online, which is hosted on Microsoft Teams and is a recorded session. The academic upgrading faculty are invited, as well as the graduates. They can have their family attend as well. So the graduation list that is generated shows the list of students who are eligible to graduate. And from this list, the registrar's office provides us with the information about the students with the highest GPA, and also academic upgrading faculty decides on which student receives the Outstanding Student Award. And this is based on the criteria such as being a positive role model to other academic upgrading students, leadership, and for being dedicated to achieving course learning outcomes. So once the highest GPA and outstanding students award recipients are decided on, I order the awards through a company called Sales Dynamics and rearrange for them to have their awards delivered to the two graduates' addresses. I prepare the graduation packages, which includes a certificate of completion and any ACE certificates, graduation program, and VSTOL with Humber pin attached. We ask for graduates' consent to use their graduation photo at the graduation ceremony. And so these are photos that the student takes wearing their VSTOL and holding their certificate. So these photos are used in the virtual graduation ceremony and also to prepare a photo composite. And all graduates are emailed a copy of the ceremony that's recorded and a copy of the photo composite. And the two award recipients also give a speech at the ceremony. And then at the end of the ceremony, there's a mix and mingle where the graduates have an opportunity to greet their fellow graduates and academic upgrading faculty and staff. And they can also share what their experience was while in the academic upgrading program. So now I will pass you on to Marlon, who will speak about the advising and support.
Well, thank you, everyone. And I know it's a big crowd, and we just want to talk about how we've actually, helped to make academic upgrading or the program, including a little bit more human context, because, with the virtual environment, lots of that contact is lost, that Ida's referred to in her speech. So one of the things that we've done in terms of the advising, and this is where I think the students, is missing out a bit more of that one-to-one. What we do initially when we connect with the student and know that they're going to be part of the academic upgrading program, we send out a little video, and that video in which I introduce myself to them and I say, it's very short, but it's just putting a face to the name and then sharing with the students what exactly is an advising appointment. What are some of the things that we could potentially discuss? Going on to support them, they're never left alone in the program. We follow up with our students so often. And for me, I found that I've had more success as the advisor in the virtual environment, because students don't have to worry about, running to get the bus or running back to a class or having to have lunch. We talk now throughout the day at their convenience. Appointment times do vary depending on what they'd have to connect and discuss. So, it's flexible. And I feel like that's the accommodating piece with the virtual learning. What we do within that session would be all of these things in the circles and more. So for example, many times they're unable to get onto the internet or whatever. They connect with us and we direct them to our IT support. There's peer tutoring happening online. We have an informal buddy system whereby a student from a higher year helps a student in a lower term. For example, someone is in second term is helping someone from the first term. We have them connecting with our math center or writing center for help. And everything is done by just a click of a button. And very often when they connect on the other side, there's always a person and a face and a real voice. So, making that presence felt for all students. We have lots of online resources that we direct them to. And many times we help them to navigate and to understand how those resources are helpful. Typically, we have a break. Our program runs for 15 weeks in every semester. And there's a break between, there's 7 weeks of class, a 1 week break, and then a continuous 7 weeks. Now, on the 8th week, we usually have what is called our lunch and learn. And many of our students, because our goal path is post-secondary, so we do have a lunch and learn where we talk about application to post-secondary or courses and all of the details that comes with that. In our advising sessions, we also have, for example, skill building sessions. Some students may struggle with study skills or, how to take notes. So we also include that in part of our advising sessions. Once midterm grades are due, we would check in with our students because we'd have a report to know how students are progressing. So just, to make sure that we are nipping things in the bud and actually reaching out to students in a very timely manner, we do a midterm check-in. At the beginning of the semester, usually, although we send an introductory video as the advisor, I do what is called our virtual class visit. So I visit each of the class, in a virtual space, introduce myself, introduce the service we offer, and encourage students to book appointments. My days are often so packed and so filled that it overspills even into the afternoon because, as I mentioned earlier, we found that so many students are reaching out for all different types of support. And another one thing that we often, would like to share is that we also do an attendance monitoring. We do have an electronic system where we monitor attendance. And one of the accommodations was we would have looked at attendance on a daily basis, but in order to accommodate, we now do it on a weekly basis. So giving some students some flexibility as to, if you can't get the work done today, but you can get it done tomorrow. Our goal is to ensure that it gets done in a very timely manner. So with all of this being said, I feel like we've really maintained that student contact. We've really built community. In our virtual lunch and learn, we have almost, it's more than one session. So we have students being able to ask questions, and always correspondence are being sent to students in a very timely manner and very simple and easy to understand. And within this program, one of the things that we can boast as well is the time frame in which we respond to emails and telephone calls is as though a student walks into the office and get a response immediately. So those are some of the things that we found that was helpful from an admin or an office procedure wise, not necessarily from that teaching aspect, but that's how we've seen it. Again, we continue to be reachable by email, by telephone, students visiting our website. All information gets updated there in a timely manner. And yeah, thank you so much for listening to us.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Therese, Margarita, and Marlene for sharing. It's true that it's so complementary because we heard from the learner, we heard from the teacher, instructor perspective, and then to see the kind of backbone of the infrastructure, like how y'all are leveraging the systems and tools and IT and the whole process behind how you keep things, moving along and streamlined. That was quite insightful to see. And we do actually have some questions from the audience for you. So I think the first question that was asked is, what do you use to schedule and book meetings with the learners for support and advice? Because you mentioned that part, and I guess people are interested in what tool is it that you use to facilitate that?
Oh, great. So that's a good question. Yeah, because we've maintained that contact and not short of it. So two things mainly, we do encourage the emails, but sometimes we found that with the emails, it's so much back and forth. So at the beginning, even at our information session and our orientation, we ask students, if you're comfortable, please share an email, a telephone number as well. So for example, all of us working from home, the office staff especially, and as the advisor, I have that direct contact with every student. We use Jabber. So it's it's an app version of it. And we also use Microsoft Teams where we schedule actual face-to-face appointment. So it works similar to Zoom, whereby we can see each other. And, with that also comes screen sharing. And Therese mentioned earlier the troubleshooting. So very often, I would quickly set up a meeting on Teams and invite the student. Whenever I, meet with a student, or I'd say this at the beginning of every advising session or every session we have to talk to students, I'd say, if you'd like to have an appointment, please just let me know in an email or by telephone, a convenient day and time. And, we make sure that whatever is the student's, time, we set up that appointment that is convenient to the student.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Thanks for sharing those tools and those tips with us. I noticed that Monica in the chat, for those who are interested but didn't quite catch the name or the terms, Monica took notes and she's put some of the information there. And then there was a follow-up question, it seems like for Therese, which is, can you speak more about how you move the registration form to a more secure platform, and what platform are you using?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'll gladly take the question. And I might also ask Margarita to step in to answer from her perspective. This is very similar to, we use our website, and there's a double authentication in order to access the website. The students have to log in with their username and student number, and then to access the actual registration site for the ministry form, we have another username and password. So there's double authentication there. So when the students, because of course they have to enter their name, address, phone number, and their social insurance number, we say check the website. You'll see it has the little lock symbol, so it's as secure as if you were on a bank financial institution site. When we walk the students through each screen and they click submit, and then we can see that they have submitted. Margarita, I'll get you to take over from there, because that's where you come in.
Just before Margarita steps in, I just want to say, Therese was just talking about the username and password. It's only time sensitive for like maybe an hour or two, right? Because what we do is change it soon after. So that helps as well to, you know, add another layer of security. So for every group, it's a different username and password, and it's changed within a short time frame. Margarita, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to add, Therese, is after they click on submit, then there's a tab that says logout. And once they click on the logout tab, it goes back to the login page. And that's the way we know that the form has been submitted. And then I receive it in the academic upgrading mailbox. And then I download each PDF registration form and spreadsheet.
Right. So the information that we get, all of the information we get too, for the ministry purposes, since we have to keep a file for each student, it's a PDF of the ministry form they've just completed. There's also a spreadsheet with all the information, which makes it easier to enter the the data into EOIS CAMS. And when Margarita has moved the all that information to our, again, very secure iDrive, the cache is cleared, so it's empty. So as Margarita mentioned, it's only open for a short time. And then the cache is cleared. So we're very mindful of the security given the information that we're collecting.
I do see a couple of questions coming in the chat, and I don't know if you'd like me to speak to them, Alethea, or
yeah, I see them coming in as well. Some great questions related to how do you contact a learner if they have no access to internet. The only thing is that I'm mindful as well of time, and we do have 2 other questions. So I'm wondering if our if our chat moderator, Tracy or Monica, could keep track of these questions, and either we would be able to ask them in the end when we have time, or I'll send them in a follow-up, and then asynchronously the guests can respond, and we can coordinate that through email as well. But these are great questions, and I don't want to let them slip, but I also want to be mindful and move us along to the second question. So if that's okay. And then I will just share my screen so that you see the second question. So thank you to Therese, Marguerite, and Marlene for that. It was very, very interesting and insightful. So the second question, it's probably a little less loaded, so it should be a different feel to this question. It's quite reflective on the main challenges around building community among learners in a remote environment. And I think some of it may have been touched upon, but this one is open, so anybody can start just addressing in 2 or 3 sentences, you know, tell us about the main challenge that you faced as you were trying to build community among learners in this remote environment.
Hi, I can speak to that.
Great.
Can you hear me? Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm always afraid. Okay, you can? Okay,
Yeah.
good. I'll just make it really brief because I think I touched on the, you know, the emotional connection and that builds a community. But I think our biggest concern, or I'm sure we can all, is internet connection. People not having the internet, or having a really poor internet connection, and it freezes and they can't, you know, they can't hear us. Or again, we use Zoom a lot because a lot of our students do have Outlook, but they don't check that email. So we've been finding Zoom just a little easier for people to use, a little more friendly. And texting, I can honestly say texting has been a game changer for me, for my students. It is fantastic because we would call my students, they don't pick up because it says unknown number, or they never check their emails. But I find texting, I usually get a response within 5 minutes when I send a text. They love texting me back, and I have one-on-ones. And we also, I had an office hour on Tuesdays, like, so people could drop in and they could also meet. It was a Zoom link that was just reoccurring every Tuesday. So that was a huge thing, having students knew Tuesdays at 11 o'clock. And I have to actually, she's not with us anymore. I took over for somebody who retired, Jeanette, and she's the one who started these office hours on Tuesday morning. And it is fantastic. They can drop in, they can leave. If they want to speak to me one-on-one, it's through text, and we can set up a Zoom link for after. And the other way, just quickly texting, I think it was really important every week, if the student wanted, or every other week, even a 5-minute check-in through phone or through text or through Zoom to keep people on track. They felt accountable to me, and they would ask me, yes, I want to meet every Tuesday. And we also have always had night school and day school, and I think it's fantastic. We kept up those hours, so the people who work full-time still had access to somebody Tuesdays and Thursday nights through text and through Zoom. And I really think your hours, we were able to flex right through the challenge. But again, everybody's challenge is internet connection. We're texting, and phone texting has really been a game changer, because we weren't able to do that before. We didn't text before COVID. We relied on the phone and email.
Right.
So that's my big thing. Texting has been my game changer.
That's very interesting. It's like, because I think we've seen a lot of apps lately, like WhatsApp and Signal and things like that. But for people who don't have internet connection or easy access to it, actually SMS text is still the most reliable way to get in touch, right? So
it's fantastic. They always, they typically, I can't believe my response rate with texting. And sometimes they just text me out of the blue. How's your day go? Like, it's bizarre. It's great. I love texting. So I promote it.
That's interesting. Thank you. Thank you for that, Sue Ellen.
Can jump in, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So I would definitely agree that internet connection is a big challenge for building community. And also, like, the merging of home and school environment is really sometimes a challenge. I mean, it's lovely sometimes, because it means that people can, be not feeling well and still come, be grieving and still come. So it's really good in that way. But there's also sometimes, babies crying. There's kids who are trying to answer for their moms when sort of the questions are being asked. There's a lack of privacy. So, while there's kind of intimate discussion happening, there's sometimes, we're aware of other people in the space, which is hard, I think, for folks. Noise in the background, a fire alarm went off, there's all kinds of things that people have to deal with. So that's one thing. We have to be a little more structured than we're used to, the sort of popcorn style of asking questions and inviting people to answer. Sometimes that doesn't work. We have to, in our creative writing group, we have a kind of color-coded system. I have like 3 highlighters so that I write down everybody who's there, and then the check-in is blue. So who's answered for the check-in, and then, who's read, who has, given feedback, who's checked out. It's because when you miss people, sometimes you don't see them on the screen. When you're sharing your screen, it's a little bit crowded. When you miss people, people really feel, we hear about it later or at the time. So people are really relying on fairness and to be seen, right? Especially when they're alone all day. So there's that piece around structure, and then having to be flexible. I think, there's a lot going on in the world. And if we come to a group on a Tuesday after a heavy news weekend, there's a lot of feelings. And I remember when we did the talent show, it was just a few days after George Floyd was murdered. So there was a huge amount of grief and feelings in the program. So the first hour of our check-in was just horrendous, and tears and lots of emotion. And then we kind of said, we had this planned for today, but like, should we just, maybe write about how we're feeling, or, and everyone said, no, let's do the talent show. And it ended up being, a wonderful experience, but just to sort of having to be flexible around that. And then my last point is, like, I think sometimes there are interpersonal challenges around, between students and just among the community that are a little different. They play out a little bit differently online, because you can be very invisible. You can, it takes a lot of gumption to sort of grab your things and, walk out the door when you're in group, but you can just turn off, you can just leave so easily. And then it was like, hey, they left, and, we need to follow up with them. And then later we hear that they were upset about something. And so it's a bit of a cat and mouse chase to try to sort of keep track of everybody and who's upset about what. So those were some things that I thought were a little bit challenging with remote learning.
Oh, Yeah, thank you. Thanks for sharing that, Mary. Those are quite insightful. I feel like it digs deeper in some layers that are not as obvious. So I think that was quite helpful to hear about how you're tackling these things, like being flexible as well, being conscious of the environments that people may be in or things that may be passing through, and then being cognizant or like aware of the interpersonal layer that's there as well. That's yeah, very, very insightful. So thank you for that, Mary. And I saw Marlon, you raised your hand, and I'm wondering if you wanted to say something.
Yeah, just to contribute to some of the challenges for us. One of it was the building of trust among the students, because they've not met us, so it's hard. But I guess it's the service and the support that they receive from the very first day is what really helps to build that trust among our students. So we don't, some of the difficulties we may not necessarily experience. There's been a lot of conversation about internet. So one of the things we do even in the beginning, recruiting students, we ask 3 questions, like, do you have access to internet? Do you have access to a computer or laptop? And we also make sure that we spell out that, having a smartphone is not going to be sufficient. So, we set them up front for success rather than have them come to the program expecting that, being able to access Google on your phone and internet on your phone is sufficient. So we do that up front. And even in our information session, we kind of really say at that point, the extent to which internet and the services of like a phone, a laptop or a computer is to be used. So they know this. Secondly, we're so happy that our program is housed at Humber. There's a lot of support. Students without laptops or computers can actually borrow one for an entire semester. In some instances, they can also have access to internet, some sort of internet support, and sometimes even cheaper internet in some instance, whilst they're being students in the program. So when we talk about IT support, that's part of what we were referring to. So, much of that challenge isn't there. And lastly, it's about within the classrooms. We do deliver the classes using Blackboard. And our teachers mainly connect with students through like the course messages there, which is very similar to like an email message. However, if the teacher determines that student need a little bit more intervention, and like a phone call would work, or a verbal conversation is going to be better, that's when that particular situation is referred to the student advisor, right? Because there's that relationship has already been there. But one of the things that we had to do in the online platform that we teach is to disable the chat in many instances, because sometimes the netiquette and online, the way in which you should behave and act in an online environment is missing. And sometimes some of our students are making comments, or they're saying things, or, if someone turns on a video and someone sees like something personal, maybe like, oh, why are you showing, like all these comments sometimes does come up in a chat. So that has been one of the challenges that we had to deal with. And so for us, sometimes asking them to turn off their cameras or to disable the chat was our response to dealing with some of the issues. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Thanks for giving us those additional challenges. I feel like we've heard everything from the challenges around internet connection, so connectivity, to access to devices, to interpersonal things, or even just being in a home environment where you have children who may be answering for you, or other things that could maybe either be a distraction for you as you're learning, or to these other issues just mentioned by Marlon. So there's quite a range of these challenges, and it's very interesting to see how each program is tackling them. And I feel like it's an ongoing learning process. I don't know if anybody could say we've arrived and we have the perfect magic solution, but it's quite insightful to kind of learn from one another and experiment and test and see what works for every group, of learners and demographics. So it's quite helpful. So thank you for sharing those challenges and your experiences with them. And sorry, I'm trying speeding along here, but because I'm looking at the time, and I'd like to move on to our last question for the discussion before we move into the breakout rooms. So basically we will have, we're hoping to open up the breakout rooms in about 10 to 15 minutes. And so I don't know if that's too little time for everybody to share or to try to condense, if it will be quite a challenge for y'all to condense what you have to say to this third question, if you could. So the question, which I have here on screen, is what was your key takeaway from the experience of pivoting to remote learning? So we've covered a lot of things in the first question, which was more broad, related to the experience of supporting authentic collaboration and communication among learners. The second question was really about challenges. And then the third, I guess, is almost like the crystal of, your key takeaway from this whole experience. So again, anybody can start, can open up the floor to any of the programs. You're more than welcome to take a crack at this.
I'll start, so because I kind of get it going. So anyways, I'll make this quick because I know you're trying to get everything in. I think it is, I can speak personally. It's amazing. My students, and I think everybody can speak to this. Yes, we can learn digital skills. Yes, we can use technology. We can do this. A year and a half ago, I was like, oh my goodness, sitting on it. I had again that, that stereotype of learning online. Yes, we can make it interactive. Yes, we can turn everything into PDF digital forms. We can use Google Forms. We can make it accessible. And we did it. The whole world became accessible, like through the internet, quite quickly. And I think change, sometimes we need change to move forward. And I am like amazed by what we have. Like, we've created a website for our program now, where our students can go there and they can find all our paper-based activities are now online. There's a web page for it. They want to work on their math. They want to work on Polar. It's all there at their fingertips now, where before they would have had to come into the classroom, physically see me, where we would have to mail it out. Now there's a web page. How fantastic is that? Everybody can use Zoom. We've taught everybody, we've got Zoom. Like, I think the biggest learning is, yes, we can change when the world makes us change. And you can learn how to use a computer. There's many of my students who, the computer was a scary thing, but now it's not, and it builds confidence in people. So I think that's my biggest, and you can make it fun. You really can. Like, I changed my Zoom backgrounds. I hope everybody gets it. I have a great link to do like, where am I today? And I have like pictures of Greece, and the students guess where I am. There's so much fun stuff you can do. And that's what I also learned. We can make it fun.
Wow, that's great. That's a great key takeaway. Thank you. Therese, I think, wants to respond to that or follow up on that.
Right. Thank you, Sue Ellen. I would agree with everything you've said. When we first switched to remote learning, we had a group starting off a pre-apprenticeship arborist program. And they all said, well, we can't do this. We'll have to cancel the program, but we convinced them to try it. And at the end of the program, they were so proud of themselves that, yes, they could do it, and they did it really well. So I think it is important that, if you're forced to make a change with the proper supports, it's possible. And now they can see the application for their future careers when they have to access clients or colleagues or whatever. So we've all had to change, and it's forced us to think outside the box.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that. I love the echo between the forced change, kind of like the environment which has forced us to change and transform digitally, but also the corresponding support that has been aligned around that. So organizations coming up with creative ways to support themselves and the learners through the transition, right? So that's really great to see. Mary, did you have anything to?
So I just want to make 2 points, and that is, you know, the digital divide is huge, and that people continue to be left behind. You know, I think about the people who we lost at the beginning of the pandemic who don't have phones, you know, and then the folks who just haven't wanted to join us online. So we've really lost them in a way. Like, we keep in touch with them by phone and by mail outs and things like that, but it's not the same. So there's a whole group of people that are being left out of this. So I think a lot more resources need to be kind of poured into this to figure out how to reach everybody. And my second point is that just, you know, it's a nice learning. It's like the realization that the spirit of the program is not dependent on physical space. And this is so important as a lot of programs are being displaced because of gentrification and things like that. So we're, you know, we're on a month-to-month lease, a little worried about where we're going to end up. And there's a little bit of reassurance now that wherever we end up, we're going to be okay, because, you know, even if we don't have any space, our online community can thrive. So that's been a lovely learning.
Wow. Thank you for ending this session, Mary, on such a positive note. That's really something that that I think it's quite insightful. I think to be able to see all the barriers that have been overcome and that are still. Of course, it's still a work in progress, and I very much, I think, like, acknowledge the point. I think a lot of the programs that we have had the privilege of working with and hearing from have also mentioned the learners that they, in a sense, lost because the digital divide still is a very real thing. But yeah, very much, I think, acknowledge also the point to the spirit of the program still being able to thrive and not being dependent upon the physical space. So we need to somehow bridge, I think, reach out or create a space where, or a system where these learners who don't have access to connectivity and to devices, how can we change the system so that they are included? But that, of course, is beyond, kind of beyond the session, but I think it's an important point to raise. And I think we're all standing with one another in the long-term, I guess, the long-term fight towards that. So yeah, so thank you for that. So this is, thank you everyone for meeting the challenge. It seems like this worked out really well because we have 15 minutes before our break. And Monica is, I think she's the breakout room master. So if Monica, you want to go ahead and, let me just share. So this is kind of what we had thought. We'll just have a couple of minutes in groups. So it'll be randomly assigned. Monica, you can maybe describe more. I'll just hand it off to you now. You let me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Alita. And thank you all of you. I know some of you are leaving or have other commitments. That's sort of how we envisioned this session, that there will be a discussion piece where some of you may want to stay for that and some of you may leave afterwards. And everybody else, if you're still willing to participate, that's fantastic. We thought we will do a breakout room so you actually have a chance to summarize or think through some of the things you learned, you heard in our session in the discussion part. And basically, we're going to open up the breakout rooms where you will be able to go in and then meet some of your other participants and share with them as well. But before we do that, just to give you a very quick overview how it's going to work. So we will actually assign you to a breakout room. So the system is going to pop up telling you you can join the breakout room. If you need ASL interpretation, stay in the main room. Do not join the breakout rooms. Our interpreters are going to stay with us in the main room, and that's where you can continue talking to us and sharing in a smaller group. But everybody else, join the smaller breakout rooms. Take a few minutes to share and discuss with others what you have learned. And basically, to do that, there should be a pop-up on your screen telling you that you have been invited to a breakout room. But if it doesn't happen, we hope that the slide here will give you some instructions as well. So basically, after we open the breakout rooms, you're going to see a breakout room option in your toolbar at the bottom. It's going to be in the black bar, and then you will see a list of the breakout rooms. The system should take you there, but if there will be a problem, you can still join the breakout room automatically on your own. So try to follow and look for the breakout rooms option and go from there. If it doesn't work, stay with us and participate in the room here. We are going to close it in around 8 to 10 minutes, so very close to 3 o'clock. So we can just come back, do a quick debrief, and then we're going to take a break. We need to give a break to our presenters. We need to give a break to our interpreters as well. So that's the goal for the break. And at around 3:15, we are going to resume. But the section after that will be a bit more around technology. So more detailed questions around technology, the tools we are using, maybe a discussion with you, what's working, what's not working for you. So that's at 3:15. So for now, I'm going to open the breakout rooms. Go in, have fun with some of your colleagues in there. And whoever stays in the main group, we are going to chat for the next 10 or so minutes together in here. When we are done, I'm going to close the breakout rooms and you will come back to the main room with all of us. Okay, so let's just take a few minutes for you to switch over and join.
Perfect. Thanks,
Right.
Monica.
No problem. But remember, the system will show you an option to join a breakout room. It may take a few minutes for others to join, so take your time. But if you can, go in and have fun. All right. Take your time. I'm just checking the breakout rooms if there's at least 2 participants in each room to make sure everybody is there. If you're staying with us in the main breakout room, we really hope you will join other breakout rooms. But if not, if you want to stay with us, we are going to do the same question. What is your sparkling moment? Or during the session or during conversation we had, maybe a moment, a lesson, a tip from this discussion we had earlier. So this time we are going to ask Alethea to stop sharing the screen so we can actually see each other a bit better. Everybody can switch to the gallery view, so it will be a bit easier to see as many of you as we can. And I can see Yeri has a hand up. So Yeri, if you would like to speak, just unmute yourself.
Okay, I am not seeing any breakout rooms being offered.
Okay, and Yeri, what kind of system are you using? Are you on a laptop, desktop, or a mobile device?
I'm on a desktop and I've got the standard Zoom.
Okay.
I'm in dual monitors and I've just got the X number. What do we got? 5 times 5, 25 faces in front of me.
All right.
But
and when you...
the bottom screen on the bottom, there was no pop-up for breakout room.
Okay, and when you look at the bottom screen, it may say your microphone, video, chat, leave, options like that. Do you see an option that says breakout rooms? Like almost like a button.
No, that's what I just said. I said on the bottom, there is no breakout room shown.
Okay, all right. So there's just something with the system. So you have to stay with us in this room for the next few minutes. And let's see if you or somebody else is willing to tell us any sparkling moments from this discussion we had today. Alethea was amazing, coordinating, amazing presenters with us. Any feedback on sparkling moments or tips you have learned during the first part of the session? Any volunteers? I'm looking at the screen.
Yeah, so Tammy has her hand up.
Okay, go ahead, Tammy.
Yeah, it might be a question or feedback, so go ahead, Tammy.
Hi, it's a bit of both. So I like some of the tips in regards to, someone said they changed their Zoom backgrounds and asked the students, where they are, and I thought that was a really great idea. I did have a question about the cameras on. We were actually having this conversation as a team in regards to the managing expectations and that interaction, and at what point do we let people know that we want them to do that, and how do we rethink our intake and orientation process to suggest that? And even if it's not a picture, do we have an avatar? And there was conversation around people's rights and who doesn't want to be on camera, and so I'm kind of wondering, for the program that says that they have the time off and time on, how do you institute that as a practice? At what point in your program do you say this is what we want to do? One of our staff was saying that her partner works for a company where they don't have cameras on at all, and their rationale is that it levels a playing field. I think for the work that we do, having that personal connection and having cameras on makes sense and is preferred, but where people are sort of at their own stage and place in terms of level of comfort, my preference would be to have something that we explicitly say or set as a standard. And I don't know if people have come up with something that they're currently doing. I'm thinking in our intake process, we should say, we'd like you to be on camera, or at least have an avatar, so that we're not just staring into black holes. And just curious how others are managing these conversations in their process.
Yeah, Tammy, I think I spoke to that when we first started. Again, it's not, we can't mandate it if somebody's really that uncomfortable, but it's a conversation. And I throw it back on myself a lot. The way I word it is, it's really hard. Like I think Charlotte spoke to, our workshops are 4 hours long. Again, I feel like I'm talking, it's like you're just a voice, like in outer space. And again, sometimes at the beginning of the session, when the first day, I'll do it for attendance, and I throw it back on myself. Like I really need just to see your face for 10 seconds so I can take your attendance. And then, you know, people get comfortable. Again, it can never really be mandated, but it's really encouraged. And I do notice, and then I encourage when you go into breakout rooms, which I do a lot on the first day, in small breakout rooms of 2 or 3 people, and people are more comfortable turning their cameras on when it's just one other person or 2 people, and then they get comfortable with the camera. I read my class. Again, I think when we all teach online, I think someone mentioned popcorn teaching. It's the same online. You've got to read your students. I always have them on a gallery view, and I can tell when they're zoning out. So I'll do an activity. I'll quickly jump to an activity to make it a breakout room. I can see when they're getting Zoom fatigue. That's when I say, turn your cameras off. So let's say, and I always make sure that at the beginning, we never go more than an hour without a break. And I don't, again, when you sit in a classroom, you're never this close to someone's face. When you think about it, you would be uncomfortable. We are in each other's personal bubble on Zoom. And I'm really cognizant of that. So again, I say, if you can turn your camera off when I'm speaking, it's just when you speak, can you please turn your camera on? And when you're in a breakout room, so people can connect with you. Mm-hmm. And then it's funny how it just kind of morphs. People get comfortable with it. But I, at least once an hour in like between breaks and lunch, I will mandate that cameras are turned off for at least 10 minutes. So in that 60 minutes, everybody gets a 10-minute break. I'll say, please turn off your camera while you do this paper activity or while you watch the video. I ask that to be done. And at breaks and at lunch, camera, and it's part of the program. We talk every morning, please turn your camera off when you're on break and when you're on lunch. I think that's really important, but we can't mandate it. It's again, that's a comfort level.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah, I hope that helps. That's kind of what I do. I throw it back on myself, to be honest.
That's really awesome. I can see Kate has a raised hand as well.
Hello. So speaking as a prospective practitioner, but also as a learner in the past, because I've done some teacher training courses with Queen's, and they were all online. And I just wanted to put in that one thing I found very helpful for making sure that people engaged, and which I've been thinking about when I've heard, is that you have that it's built into the assessment. So you actually set that, it was almost like it's part of the rubric of the course that they're following, that they interact in a certain way. And there are, I mean, the understanding of it being positive, but being constructively critical. And obviously with different ages of learners, that will be communicated in a different way, but the expectation to communicate and to interact and engage was kind of written into how well they can participate in the course, right? So I found that really helpful. And obviously at postgraduate level, it means that you also have that opportunity to share your academic. You can cite your further reading, which you don't get to see all the time. But when you're at these other different levels, it just allows people to, it lays it out at the beginning. And then I did say about land acknowledgements, because I've recently been doing some work on that for my professional work, that when I did training on that, you do actually have to formally introduce yourself with recognition to your lineage. And I found that really deeply interesting academic. And I think that in this space, it would work really well to talk about who you are, who your mother is, where you are, why you've come to this course. And obviously there are issues around that pertaining to privacy, but once you're online, I found that circle introduction, it's really helpful, and it's really supportive of diversity. So I would really urge everyone to find a way to make that part of where they go forward as they create programs, not just with working with, not solely working with Indigenous groups within Canada.
Mm-hmm. Very good point, Kate. And just to summarize this, I also want to mention that anytime we meet online, whether it's just for a very quick, brief conversation, a meeting, whatever we do, we create our own community. And the more social we are, the more responsive we are to others, the more visual we are. I think it makes a big difference for other participants to allow them to open up a bit more, to engage, and to have fun with us as well. So learning so much today, and then you sharing different ideas and tips. This is just fantastic. So we want to thank you so much for joining in and even staying here and just sharing a bit with us. I'm going to close the other breakout room, so we will have 1 more minute before people start coming back to us. If there's anything else you want to say, one word that really made a difference for you today, feel free to do that, okay? All right, so 60 seconds before everybody else comes back. All right, if you had to think of one word, just one word to summarize today's session, can you call it out to us?
And you could put it in the chat as well if you don't want to.
If it's easier, yeah. I always say one word for me is engaging. That's my word.
Monica, Tammy, mine is not one, it's 2 words, rabbit hole, because I feel
Rabbit
like we're
hole?
just going down this rabbit hole of what to do and what to consider. So that's what's coming to mind. It's a good thing. It's a thoughtful exploration, but rabbit hole is what comes to mind.
All right. Thank you, Tammy. Anybody else? All right. I can see more participants are coming back. They have 9 more seconds before we wrap up. So this is going to wrap up our breakout room, and then we are going to go into a break. So basically the idea will be that I'm going to launch something on the screen. I'm going to use something called classroom screen, where everybody will have a chance to see a timer, and we are putting in 15 minutes for us, just so that if you need to step away, do something very briefly, grab a glass of water, you will have a chance to do that. And then when we come back at around 3:15, we will restart a bit of a tech Q&A session. So in the tech Q&A, we are really going to talk a bit more about specific tools. And today, we really talk about video conferencing tools, meeting online with learners, and utilizing some of the amazing ideas that everybody shared with us today. But really, you may also have questions about the tools. I have seen a lot of discussion in the chat about the calling tools, the texting tools, and so on. But you also may have questions about Zoom, about Google Meet, or Microsoft Teams. So we thought we'll give you 3 quick tips. You may know them already, but you may not know. And then we'll invite you to also share some of your own tips or observations or ideas that you may have found as well. So before we run into the breakout room, as everybody is coming in, I can see also some activity in there. I know some of you will be leaving, but if you're coming back, and then the rest of the group who just rejoined us from our breakout rooms, if you feel, if you would like to share with us what really sparked your ideas or tips or suggestions for you to take away from this session, feel free to put them in the chat. This chat will stay open as we continue. But in the meantime, what I'm going to do is share the screen and open up our classroom screen. So if you have ever used this tool, you may have seen it before, but if you haven't, I'm switching to classroom management tool called Made Easy. And then classroom screen is the name of it. I just want to check if everybody can see it. Can you see that screen, or you're seeing something else on the screen?
I can see it fine.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So it's basically a tool that anyone can go to, and you can launch it without being signed in. You could create an account, but you do not have to. So it's going to launch a screen with a picture in the background. You can go in and change the background to anything you want. So it could be a regular picture, or it could be a video of something like a fire or a river running, or even a beach, like something like that. And then we can launch different applications on it. For example, a timer, and it's going to be 3:15. So I'm going to, let me just set up something else. Actually, I'm going to set up a timer this way. And this timer will allow us to actually say, okay, 13 minutes or 12 minutes from now, because we want to be back at 3:15, and I'm going to play it. And now it's going to run in the background. So all of you are free to take a bit of a break, turn off your videos, walk away from the screen. This will stay on. And when the timer is up, it is going to beep. Sometimes it doesn't beep for everyone, but it may beep for you as well. And then we are going to resume or jump into the tech Q&A session. If you're not planning to come back, we all thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing your tips and ideas, and sharing in the chat. There was so much great information there. As I mentioned, we will try to summarize some of that and share that with you afterwards as well. But I really hope you will stay. So see you back at 3:15.
Yeah, I'm wondering if just before people step away, because I don't know if some will come back, but if we could just unmute for, is is it okay just to unmute for 1 second? And I just want to like thank the guests that we had who shared with us their experience. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody for your insights and all the comments and all the chats and sharing and supporting one another. Thank you very much. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you. Okay, I guess we can go on break now. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm still here. I haven't left. Abigail, your question about the classroom screen, I do use it on Mac. It's a browser thing. So you just go onto Chrome browser or Explorer and see if you can go to classroomscreen.com and launch it there. So it should launch on any computer, laptop device for sure.
Monica,
Yes,
just before I sent you those resources in an email.
perfect. Thank you so much, Sue Ellen. You were awesome. Thank you for sharing all this amazing information.
Yeah, well, it's not that much. I'm sure everybody already knows it, but I put the two, they're in Word docs. So I shared the web page because it's easy in the chat.
Okay.
I didn't describe the third activity. It's a cutting thing that you can do to, but people can figure that out themselves.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, we'll
So
definitely.
that-
We will send it to anyone who registered for the session. So that will become a part of the resource package. And then hopefully also even share on the website, if that's okay with you, just as extra resources that somebody can review after the
Yeah,
session.
and that's what I'm dying for is for, like, I love like fun resource stuff that people are using. It's
Yes.
so helpful. So you don't have to search for it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
like little
absolutely.
activities. We need like an activity book.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Monica,
Thanks,
Yes.
Monica.
it's Marlon from Humber.
Hi, Marlon.
I just have one question. I stepped away for a minute when you were doing this classroomscreen.com. I just went to Chrome and I know that I can launch it. But can you just in one or two sentences tell me what is this about?
It's basically a tool that any teacher can use to put stuff on the screen. It could be a pause or break background, but it also has a lot of different tools for you to utilize when you're in a video call with your students, for example. So in this case, we just use the background so that when we are having a break, it's just a nice view to look at and we have a timer,
Oh,
right?
I see.
So
Okay.
the idea for here is like that, but there's also a lot of different tools in there that you can actually launch as you're using it while you're sharing the screen. So there is random name draw. So you can actually draw names. The system can draw the names for you of everybody in the room so that it's like you're not picking the name. It's actually the system that picks somebody's names to go next. There's also dice. So you can do some games. You can actually play videos. You can draw on it. You can write on it. A lot of different tools. And it's just part of the actual interface.
And can I use this in a Zoom?
Yes. So basically right now you just have to share the screen. So I'm sharing the screen and then you're looking at my screen with the classroom. So when you do that, anyone who is looking at the screen can use that as well.
Okay. I understand. Now I figured. Yes. Thank you so much. This is very helpful. Just figuring out how I'm going to use it in my advising session. And I always wanted something like this.
Okay.
So now I know what I can use. Yeah, because now I see you drawing and you can draw on so many things. Sometimes, it's easier to advise this way. Yes.
Visual,
perfect.
Right? A bit visual.
Yes.
Yeah.
This
Perfect.
is very perfect. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
So Monica, one could share this, like if I opened up a separate window and I was using MS Teams or Blackboard, if you share the screen, it appears on whatever platform you're using.
Yes, it's almost like if you were pulling up a document or presentation or video, in this case, you're just pulling up one of the tabs in your browser that's running this interface.
Lovely, lovely. I think this would be good if you're waiting for people to join you can set this up and say the meeting's going to start in 10 minutes, but there's something to watch, right?
Exactly. And I'm just bringing in different applications that are there because it may give you some ideas as well. Yes, exactly.
Thanks for sharing.
No problem. So it's almost time to come back. And I know some of you will be joining us very soon. If you're watching the screen, you will notice we added a few more items to the screen just to show you that there are different things that can be launched. Not sure if you heard that, but my timer just went off. That means time is up. It's almost time to restart. It's 3:15. We have allocated around 45 minutes for our tech Q&A, but really the idea is that we hope you will share some of the tips and ideas with us as well. And then I'm going to put a bit of a spotlight on Tammy, because Tammy in the chat was asking what's the difference between this version of Classroom Screen and the paid version. And Tammy, if you wouldn't mind sharing, because I don't really know the difference. I usually use the free version.
Hi, sorry, I don't have it memorized, but I still have the page up.
Of course.
Just a second. Oh, I'll put my camera on so you can see me. So the main difference is there's a poll option. So you can poll with remote voting, you can save your screens, you can add multiple name lists. So you can have 30 name lists and you can upload customized images.
Oh, wow.
And then they have a pro version where you can have multiple licenses running and there's a volume discount and you can reassign your licenses. So
That's
I think
amazing.
the free version works for us unless you have sort of large volume where you need to have different name lists and things like that and you want to upload customized images.
Perfect. So thank you so much, Tammy. And I think it's a very nice segue, just trying to make sure that everybody has a chance to come back before we continue. But also the idea is that you can enable any of those specific windows. Like if I go to draw again, you will see it's going to appear on the screen and now I can draw. So I know sometimes the math discussions, if you're trying to do the math equations and draw them on the screen, you could try drawing using this tool that's just part of the actual application. If you don't want to have it there, you can just close it. So as we're waiting during the break, I just was opening different tabs to show you that you can have dice, you could have a calendar in there if you wanted to show your students the calendar or actually count how many days to the next session. You can just have the clock running on the side if you would like. All those panes can be set up and moved around in any way you want. So quite a few nice features, especially when we are talking about those screen sharing and video calls we have with our students, right? We heard amazing tips and suggestions from instructors, from coordinators on how they were able to use the different tools. This is just one of the ways to actually engage with the students a bit more with the tools that may not be part of the tool you're already using, like Zoom or Google Meet. And you're not restricted by that. You could actually enhance a lot of the things you're doing using some of those tools as well. So this tool was shared with me by one of the ESL instructors I had a chance to meet. And ever since, I just love this idea of setting up the timer, especially for the breaks, so that we all are on time, we can see what's happening with the clock, and then we can return and continue our session as well. So I think this part is going to be a bit more neutral, a bit more relaxed. But we also have just a few more slides for you just to give you some extra tips, if that's okay with you. So if it's okay, Alethea, would you like to share your screen or should I share my screen? What would be easier?
I can whichever, because I guess since it's you'll be facilitating, like you'll be speaking. Yeah. So I don't know whichever is best. I can share it as well.
That's okay.
But as you wish.
That's okay. So let's see if this is going to launch properly. Can we see our tech Q&A slide? I just want to check with everyone. Awesome. Thank you so much, Alethea. So some of those things we are going to discuss and some of the things we are going to really also show you. And one of the things I wanted to mention and show you is that Zoom tools itself has the annotation tools. And I'm really curious if any of you have used annotation tools when you're working with your learners and potentially how you may have been using them. So if we have somebody here who has used annotation tools, please feel free to chime up and share if you have been doing that. So Manal, I can see you said yes in the chat. Would you be willing to share a bit more by turning on your audio and sharing with us?
Yes, sure. My name is Manal Atta. I'm a digital program facilitator at the Learning Place, and I facilitate a technology program, digital literacy program, and I help my students through the annotation tools to like direct them, like they share the screen and sometimes they give me the control. That's the last option, but before I try to direct them through the annotation tool while they're sharing their screen with me to help them like perform the right feature or the function or etc. So this is a very helpful tool.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Manal, for
You're very
sharing that.
welcome.
I really appreciate that. And if you're watching my screen, you may notice that I was able to draw a few things on the screen, just even on the slide I'm sharing. I can switch between drawing to even a spotlight. So I could just have a cursor moving around, but now it has a bit of a tiny red dot. And it's just to help highlight some specific sections or words, or to get your attention to move your eye in a specific direction. And really, it's a very, very simple tool to use. You will laugh. I have been using Zoom for years now. And only recently, when I was in a session with someone, and I was trying to explain to somebody else in the room that, go to the top right section of the screen and click on this icon. And somebody else in the session annotated and really drew the circle around it. That's when I really clicked in that this tool is not only to be using on a whiteboard per se. This tool can be used on anything you're sharing. So if I actually exited the slides right now, so I'm going to do it just to show you. If I exit the full screen, if I open any new website, let's say I'll go to here, you will see my drawings are still here because they were drawn on the specific page. I could remove them or clear them out. And then I can draw again or stamp or do whatever I want with it by telling you, we will love you to take a look at this badge. You can learn more by going and learning on this criteria right here. I can use any of the tools on any website I'm going to. So the annotation tool is really, really handy. Now in our Zoom, our settings are set up that anyone can annotate. So I can see some of you are going in and also annotating, because you can do that with you and your learners. But you can also change the permissions in the settings, and you can say, no, only the host can annotate, or you can be very specific about that. But it can be a fantastic tool for you to use to enhance a bit of that learning, for you to guide somebody, or for your learners even to tell you or show you if they are understanding what you're showing them. You could ask them, show me where would you click next, or highlight this section, or put something next to this section. It makes it a bit more interactive. So for me, it was just this discovery of a very simple tool that already exists that makes a big difference. So Manal, thank you so much for you sharing that. I can see you're using it very effectively. For some of us, it's still a learning experience, even when we use those tools for a while. Feedback from anybody else? If you have noticed something similar or something interesting when you were using Zoom or any other tools within Zoom that actually you enjoyed a lot, feel free to put that in the chat or speak up if you would like. You can raise your hand or just unmute your microphone. Any other tips for that, or should we move on to the next tool? Okay. Okay, so Trish, you're showing you're excited that there are more emojis under the reactions button. That's awesome. The poll feature is fun, but it's only available with a paid Zoom subscription. Yes, it's usually for those who have at least the pro license, so for the polling in Zoom. But if you're able to use that, it's also good to know that only the host can launch it. So right now in our Zoom session, the way we are in right now, I'm the host. Alethea and our ASL interpreters are co-hosts, and some of our presenters were co-hosts, so they had more permissions. But the polling feature is very, very specific in that only the host can launch it. It's similar to the breakout rooms. In breakout rooms, it's also the host who has to be launching it. So it gets a bit tricky depending on what license you use and who is in, but there's a lot of amazing tools and tips that I really hope you will be willing to share with us as well. Let me jump back to our session. So let me just turn off my annotating tools, because for now, I just put a heart on it. Look at all of our annotations on this slide. Isn't that amazing? All the stars and arrows we've got. This is really cool. Let me clear this off. So on the slides, you do have just a bit of instructions that you can annotate as well. And we really invite you to try it, especially if you're a Zoom user and if you haven't tried that before. Now, the other tool that we would like to show you is, or discuss, is actually Microsoft Teams tool. So I really won't be able to go and launch Microsoft Teams for you, but I know some of you are using Microsoft Teams, and you could be using Microsoft Teams in 2 different ways. One is really mostly to schedule a meeting and video calls and meet online. That's how you could be using your Microsoft Teams tool. Some of you may also be using the actual team part. And if you're an educational institution, you could be actually using Microsoft Teams for education. If you do have that license, you even have an option to have classrooms and assignments in your Microsoft Teams, but not everybody has that feature. So for those of you who are using the Microsoft Teams, just the video calls with the chat feature you have in there, not sure if you have noticed that your chat, the chat we have been using today here in our Zoom, is fairly simple. You can mostly just write the text messages and you can choose who you're going to send it to. But in Microsoft Teams, that chat is amazing. If you really pay attention to the different options you have on that, so let me just spotlight this as well, so you will see it. If you will pay attention to all those icons in your chat when you open your chat in Microsoft Teams, you have bolding and italics, so you can actually customize text a bit more. But then also, there are 3 dots that allow you to open other features. So this is, I think, one of the only chats I have seen where you could actually increase and decrease the font size when you are connecting with somebody in Microsoft Teams. You can add quotes if you would like. You can bring in links. Links are working in our Zoom, but only that is really mostly similar. You can even insert tables. Can you imagine you can put a table in a chat? You can do basic math with your students. You can have your students type in the table. Amazing, amazing feature. So if you're using Microsoft Teams and you haven't explored this feature, take a closer look, because again, sometimes we really don't notice some of those features, but they can be so handy for us. And if you have used it, in what way did you use it that may be slightly different than for other ones? I really like the quote option, that you can bring the quote, because once a day, maybe when you're starting your sessions or when you're wrapping the day, you could actually bring a quote for your students to inspire them or encourage them as they're going on during their day. So I really like the quote feature. Anything else that stands out for the rest of you in this option with Microsoft Teams that you think may be useful? Bulleting points, Alethea, perfect. Yes, bulleting just it summarizes things. You could be the same thing for your students when you're working with them. You could ask them, can you just summarize in 2 or 3 points your thoughts or your ideas or what we covered today? Again, different way of interacting with students just to make it a bit more different. All right. Okay, so this is the second option. We are also going to have milestones. Swati, you have done milestones in Microsoft Teams. Can you tell us a bit more? And Swati, if you're here with us, feel free to unmute if you would like. Sometimes the microphone doesn't work very well. So Swati is looking for it, just so you know. And Swati, if you can speak with us, feel free to unmute. Okay, and then Alethea, you're mentioning that Manal is using it to share links like Microsoft Teams. That's amazing. Links, resources. It's one of those steps that sometimes we forget when we are working with our learners. We take it for granted, first of all. We assume they know how things work. So we may have to guide them through that first process first time. If you put a link in there, you may have to tell them to click on it. It's going to open in a new window. You may lose Zoom window if you're in Zoom. It may have a different interface or in how it's laying out and what you're seeing it. So it's good to know, to mention that, to pay attention to that, so your learners are also a bit more comfortable with that, or you can guide them through that process in the first day they're using it as well.
So yes, Monica, what I do is I take those milestone sheets and scan and send it to them.
Okay.
But sometimes I erase the word milestone, and then we share the screen and do the video calling.
Okay.
And they answered me if there is an like kind of what is it called, optional choices, then they answer me, and I then mark it on my sheets, that hard copy I have. So it makes it easier so that we can show development, their progress, and we are able to do task demonstration also same way. We scan the sheets and send it to them, and then we discuss when we do the sessions with them on video call, on video. Yeah.
Perfect.
It's working out very good. Yes.
Perfect. And, you know, as I talk to different programs as well, as we connect with them, they tell us that really being able to share the screen or view your learner's screen and what they're seeing, what they're doing can be very handy and very useful. And as some of the presenters today shared as well, you know, encouraging them to turn on the camera, but also to turn it off. So they have a bit of that downtime.
Yes.
They don't have to feel that they're monitored all the time. But when you're doing a bit of test or quiz or something, you may need to monitor it a bit more. So you may want to see what's happening and what the learner is doing. So really great tips from you, Swati. Thank you so much for that.
Yes, and we feel that we are able to show progress in that, in their file, and definitely to the ministry also, which is required.
Perfect, perfect. That sounds really good. I'm going to jump to the third tool. So we had one tip about Zoom. We had a quick tip about Microsoft Teams. The third tip I wanted to mention is really about Google Meet. And again, we are not really going to jump into that. We don't have as much time for that. But really what I wanted to sort of just highlight for you, if you want me to, I will go there too, actually. But the tip number 3 is around Google Meet. And the idea that you can have closed captioning in Google Meet, which is something you can turn on if you would like, so that your learners can see the text actually typed out on the screen, if that's helpful for them. But also, in there's more and more activities that are getting added. So if you look at your tools in Google Meet now, there will be a section with triangles and squares and circles. And if you click on that, you may see more options in there. It will depend on what kind of Google license you have. So what you're seeing right now is the license that is Google Workspace license. AlphaPlus, as a nonprofit organization, we have access to that. If you're using a regular Gmail account, you may not see the breakout rooms. But if you're using the Workspace license, which is organization license, then you will actually have breakout rooms in your Google Meet. And that will allow you to divide your group into smaller groups to work together as well. But besides breakout rooms, there's also polling that you can do directly in Google Meet. You can do Q&A questions and the whiteboard. And the whiteboard is actually the Jamboard. So if you have heard about Jamboard, it's basically a whiteboard tool from Google that you can open and launch at any time and share with your learners, and they can write on it if they would like. So I thought maybe if it's okay with you, I'm going to actually, rather than going into those sections in Google Meet, I'm going to launch Jamboard for you, and we'll see if I can just right on the spot share it with you so you can actually utilize it and do something with it right in this session here. So give me 1 second. I'm just going to stop my slides just so that way we will have a bit more space in here. I'm going to open a new tab for you. And in the tab, I'm going to type in Jamboard. Now I'm going to do it very slowly because I also want to make sure that everybody can follow. But as soon as I type in Jamboard, the system is going to take me to this crazy big space that I can buy and do different things as well. But I just want Jamboard. So let me try one more time. There we go. I'm going to do Google search for that. Jamboard.google.com will be the actual address. So let me go there. And because my account is logged in with my work account right here, the system takes me to the list of different Jamboards or whiteboards that I have used before. Now notice, we are in Zoom. I didn't launch the whiteboard in Zoom. I'm sharing the screen with you and taking you to a Jamboard, which is just slightly different tool you could use. And I'm going to click on a plus symbol to say I'm going to start a new Jamboard for all of us to explore. Now, what I will need to do next is to give you the link to join my Jamboard and to change permissions so that you can actually write on it and participate in this Jamboard with me. And then I'll give you a link in the chat and you all will be able to come in and do different things with me. So first of all, I'm going to give it a name and I'm going to say Showcase Jamboard. Okay, I'm going to click OK in there. And in the sharing options, I'm going to change my permissions. So right now, the system says, if you go to the link, it's going to be only AlphaPlus team that's going to see it. But I'm going to say no, change it, and anyone with the link will have a permission to edit this Jamboard. So I'm changing the permissions right here. And as soon as I do that, I can copy this link and paste it for you in the chat. So watch the chat. The link is going to show up there. And if I set up everything properly, you will be able to join me in this Jamboard. All right. So I can see some of you are coming in, and you will see icons popping up right here, right on top. Sometimes the system will say full name, like you may have seen Alethea joining in, but everybody else may be anonymous. And as you're coming in and drawing on it, Alethea is signing to her account. That's why I can see her name. Some of you may be just anonymous because you may not be logged in into your account. But look at you, all of you are coming in and drawing and participating and doing different things as well. Perfect. So as you're doing all this, I can see sticky notes, I can see drawings. Can you give me ideas of how you could be using that with your learners in the class when you are with them in the synchronous setting to make things a bit more interesting? Any ideas, any way you may have used Jamboard already where this is working very well for you and your group? Any volunteers? Again, feel free to unmute.
I've never used it, but it'd be awesome for interactive math class.
Perfect, Trish. I love that idea. Give me more ideas. What else?
I'd probably use it, like I do use the whiteboard in Zoom. I'd use it for brainstorming, or when we break up into teams and you come back about whatever you're reading and your insights. I have a question for you though, Monica.
Yeah.
When I don't know if anybody else has this problem. A lot of students have a hard time, the annotate doesn't seem to show up on their device, or they can, I don't know what because they have to hit annotate. With this, is it easier? Like you're not going through that other step for them finding the annotate button. Is this correct?
Yeah, so all the tools you see on the left. So if you just tell them, look at the tools on the left, you have a pen, you have a note in there, you can add pictures, you can draw. It's much faster and easier. See, I haven't given you overview of how this works, and everybody's just going in and playing with it.
Okay.
So it's a bit more intuitive for sure.
Because it's really like, it's hard to use a whiteboard. If only some people can annotate, then I feel bad because people are left out.
Yeah, yeah.
And
exactly.
can you upload and put pictures on here if you have a Google account? Like
yeah, so on the left, if you look at the picture icon, and I can see everybody is just coming in and doing different things. So if you deleted something, that's fine too. Don't worry about this, we are learning. But when I click on the icon with pictures, I can upload, I can find pictures by URL, I can go to my camera if I had one connected, I can even do Google search or Google Drive. So you have a lot of options in there. And I will go into the image search. Many of you know I do cats. So here is a cat that I'm going to bring in as an image. But it could be so many things. It could be a writing activity where you can ask your students, write a sentence about a cat, write about a sentence about your pet. And mine is a cat, but for you, it could be a dog or something else. So you could really kind of inspire your students, or just by using an image, you could just do something with them and get them engaged and going right on the screen. I have seen instructors putting in a picture, let's say family members in the pictures. And the question is, how many family members are in the pictures? How many are male? How many are female? So now we are using pictures to do math, and the students can write right on the screen as well. So it can be very, very interactive in a very simple way. Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you.
No problem. Other feedback from other participants. Our group got smaller, which is totally okay. We know not everybody is staying for some of those tips and tools, but if you're still with us, feel free to interact and participate. Any more tips from you?
Yes, Monica. I use it for training basic computer typing, like backspace or delete, those features, type like shift with 0, those type of skills on like type for very basic like skills to let them know how to use the keyboard.
Wow, I like that too. Perfect. I love that. And you can see on top, if I go to the top, you will see numbers 2 and 3 and then so on. That allows you to switch between the different whiteboards, if you can call it that way. So the first one could be a question 1. Second one could be question 2, or activity 1, activity 2, activity 3. We could do activities by the learner name. So each learner could have their own board to work on. Many different ways in which you can interact. But Manal, your tip on how you are using it for the keyboarding skills or even vocabulary, there could be so many of those as well. Fantastic.
Monica, I was wondering, like, can we download any activities on these Jamboard? No.
So the idea here is that this is a white space or whiteboard or interface that's in a browser. So in here, it allows you to bring things into it like pictures or write text, but you can really download into it because in itself, it doesn't have that functionality. You could bring images of activities or worksheets and then display them here and ask students to write next to it, but it doesn't allow you to download the same way you may be thinking about that. Is that making sense?
Okay, I got you. So I cannot download task demonstration and work with them and things like that.
You could bring them here as pictures. If you have them as a picture, you can bring it in, but not something where they will be able to actually fill it out if you're thinking of it that way.
Yes,
you
okay, got you.
can save your screens, your whiteboards afterwards. So I will often do that for learners if I want to save the lesson, and I can even email it to them later, so they can refer to it later. By just clicking on the ellipsis near the share button, it gives you the choice to save as JPEGs or PDFs.
Okay. Okay.
Exactly. Yes, you can.
Okay.
And the system actually remembers your Jamboards as well, but you can also save them and download them. So you could use them as documentation with your learners, even to put them in their folders if you want to, or save them in a virtual folder. But you can document or use this as some of the documentation of the interaction with your learners as well. All right, Manal, copy paste exercises. Oh my God, you are bringing so many different ideas here. I'm loving this. This is perfect. All right.
That's what I thought. We can copy paste exercises.
Yes. So
yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. And Sue Ellen, your question, can you allocate one screen per student? Yes. So what we could do is, so I'm going to switch to the second screen and I could say that this is Joey. I could just use the sticky notes. Joey, save. And this is going to be Joey's screen. So we can just tell everybody, don't write on Joey's screen. The next one will be Sue Ellen. So Sue Ellen, you go and find your, sorry, Ellen, your screen, and just this is your screen where you are going to do your activity for today. So you could actually allocate those. And if I click on this tiny arrow right here, it's kind of hidden in there. But if I do, it will actually show me previews of all the different sort of whiteboards that you have in there. So it can be handy just to kind of give you that orientation to what's what in here as well. Very simple, very, very simple, very useful. But I think what I really wanted to also show you is that it was the idea of not having to stick with one tool that you have built into your Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Google Meet. The idea is you can bring so many of them and utilize them in the same space, no matter which tool you're using, because you can add on. It's like in your classroom, you had all those resources. You had all kinds of workbooks and activities, and you were combining them to make that experience interesting and fun for your learners. And many of you today share that you're already doing that and sharing that, but just in many different ways. So here are some extra tools that I hope are useful and interesting, from just extra tips to some of the tools you're already using to a Jamboard as well. And we will cover a bit more of Jamboard next time we meet, just so you know. We are going to have a more orientation to that and bring somebody who may be using it very, very frequently and often as well. So that was just a very quick orientation to that. What I want to do is really just sort of stop and have you give us other ideas and tips on technology, or give you space to ask questions around technology. If we can't answer them today, we will be very happy to answer them or put information on the back burner and respond to them in the next session or by email as well. So I just want to make sure that you know that we are not going to forget them. We are going to keep them in mind as well. Okay, perfect. And Tracy is saying we are doing a Jamboard workshop in October. That's a very good, Tracy. A lot of different information coming in our chat. That's perfect. Tammy, question for AlphaPlus. Now that we are all online, do you know if the ministry has softened their approach on allowing organizations to upload the ministry form into CAMS so staff aren't entering the info twice? That's a good question. I wouldn't be able to answer. Alan, you may have some ideas. I can see Alan is here with us as well.
No, we haven't heard anything that they're changing the input system yet.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Thank you, Alan. And then good question from Kate. What type of lighting is best when using Zoom? So Kate, just to clarify in terms of how the light shines on you.
Monica, sorry,
Yeah?
interpreters. We're getting a bit too quick for me, and I
Yes.
think the other
Nope.
interpreters as well. Can we just
Very
kind
good
of
point.
slow things down for the questions and answer part?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely, Gloria. Thank you for reminding us that we need to
Can you,
be mindful.
no problem. Can you read the question again a bit
Yes.
slower?
Yes, exactly. The question is what type of lighting to use and will be best when using Zoom. All right, perfect. So very good question because it can be very difficult for somebody to see. And most of the time when you look at tips and ideas on that, they will tell you that the light that actually shines on you, that shines you up so you're brighter and your background is darker. And depending also who is the user, I'm always very mindful that when we work with the ASL interpreters and the community that may need signing, we also want to have darker colors, not too much contrast in terms of the shirts and patterns, just to make sure that the picture and the color comes out as clear as it can be. So in my case, what I usually try to do is I actually sit in front of a window so the window shines on me, but I also have extra lamp right here, like if I just flip it. So if I need more light, especially in the evening, I would turn it on and actually shine on myself. It can be blinding sometimes, but you will notice that a lot of users who record videos, they have those ring lights. And the ring light is actually meant to lit up your face. So it's a bit easier to see your expressions, your face, and it's easier for others to read the expressions. So that's a very, very good question. Any other tips from somebody else who may have done the setup for lighting when it comes to doing video calls and things like that? And what have you done that may have worked for you?
Well, it's useful to be able to adjust the lighting and the brightness in your settings.
Absolutely. Oh, very good point. Exactly. In Zoom itself or in any other tool you're using in the video calls, you could try to do the settings and check the options. Sometimes there's also not only the lighting, but also the sound. I noticed in Zoom recently, they added an option to even to highlight the sound that's closer to you and to kind of buffer the sound that's further away, just to make sure that the sound comes across better as well. So lighting, the screen, the brightness in the room, all those things in the settings that you can change can also make a big difference as well. Okay. The ring lights, perfect. I'm just quickly going to jump into the chat to see if I'm missing anything else. I think Therese had a question or comment. Therese, would you like to speak up?
Sure. Let me just, yeah, there was a question about if the ministry was going to do something to for people to be able to upload information directly into EOIS CAMS. And I was in a meeting last week, I believe it was with MTML. I can't remember now, I've been to too many meetings, but they are doing a test pilot with one program. It might be one of the employment services areas. There's just, it's still in the sort of stage of creating it. There's no confirmation of when it will happen, and there's no clarity on who would be assigned each case, the case owners and so on. But they are working on something. The pandemic might be long over and done with by the time it happens, but it's a start.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Therese. That's very helpful. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. So as Therese was sharing with us, I also just was skimming through our chat. and a few extra tips in there about eyes, moving your eyes when you're in the session. That's one of the tricky ones, even for many of us. So very often we are sharing our screens, we are looking at where we have our participants, the chat, people who are in the session. So your eye is going around quite a bit. But one of the things I also want to point out is that, for example, if you're using two screens, that can be a problem. So let me just show you a very quick, very, very brief example. I'm right now on my laptop screen, and I'm going to move one of the windows into my monitor that's behind my laptop. You will see my face went all the way up and I'm looking at you a bit higher. So it may look a bit strange, but the reason for that, and I always have to be very mindful of that, is that my camera is on the laptop. So if I want to be strategic, and I'm always trying to be, not always successfully, but I'm trying, is I'm always making sure that the place where I see the videos of my participants or my colleagues is on the same screen where my camera is. So that way, at least
Sorry,
whenever I'm talking
Monica.
to you, I can. Yeah?
We can't see you.
You can see me?
No.
All right, because I'm sharing my screen. Let me do it one more time. Okay, so here I am. I stopped sharing my screen so you can see the entire gallery view. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So if I share the screen one more time, and I'm just going to share the desktop, which is the second screen I'm sharing, okay? So you can see the second screen where I'm doing tech Q&A. Do you see that screen?
No.
Yes.
Okay, so now, if you're looking at that screen on the right side as I'm speaking, I will be somewhere on the right side where you'll see a video of me because I'm the presenter. It may be even highlighted. If you don't see me, you may have to switch the view, but usually the speaker is on the right. So you will see the video of me. And as you see that video, I very likely right now look like I'm looking at you because
I see Althea ASL interpreters,
Yes?
but I don't see you on the
Okay.
right hand side.
Okay, let me try something else then.
You're not pinned, I think. There
let's
you
see.
go. Oh,
All right, now you can see me?
no.
Okay, so let me
You
try
popped
one
in
more
for a
time.
second.
I'm going to pin myself. Let's see if that's going to make us with. So I'm going
It's
to
very
remove.
possible that she needs to scroll through the thumbnails of videos.
No, it's not that. It's just I see only three faces.
Yes. So on the right side in the
I
top
just
right
saw
corner.
you before.
Yeah, if you go to the top right corner, see if you can switch to gallery view rather than the speaker view. And in the gallery view, you should be able to see more participants. That should be view option for you.
Yeah, now I see. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So this is the option that
you.
everybody can choose. Again, a lesson for all of us when working with our learners. They may not know that they may need to switch the view. We assume that you can see because I can see it, but they may not see it. So thank you for pointing this out. But now that you can see me, one of the points was that if I look at my monitor above me, so above my laptop, I'm looking up. So the view you have of me is very different than when I'm actually looking at you. And the difference is that I'm using two monitors and I have to be very mindful where my camera is so that you can see me properly. For anyone interacting with others, it makes a difference. And it's one of those reasons why we get tired when we are in video calls, because we are trying to be very respectful to our participants and make sure that they can see us, that we are not looking away and ignoring them altogether, that we are still engaged with them. And some of you mentioned you have 4 or 5 hour sessions with your learners. How do you make sure that you look engaged and supportive of them and they of you when you're just exhausted and be continuously on with that video? So that's why those tips with turning off the videos were absolutely fantastic. All right, Therese, you have a raised hand again. I just want to check if it's from before or if you have another tip. No, we are not hearing from Therese. I'm not sure if there's just maybe something. Therese maybe stepped away. All right. Okay. So it is 3:54. We promise we will be going until 4. I'm going to ask if you have any other tips or ideas. Chat is fantastic to put those in. If we don't have a chance to review them now, we will summarize everything and send them to you as a package of resources. So I really appreciate that. What I'm going to do is I'll take you to our last slide and share that with you to make sure that you can see our final tips and ideas and suggestions for you. So Session number 2 is coming up on July 20th. And can you just confirm with me that you can see our thank you page before I forget? Perfect. Thank you, Alethea. That session is going to be about online tools to the rescue, engaging learners to collaborate together remotely. So you have seen me doing Jamboard. There will be more of tools like that today and in the next session as well. Now, if you would like to share your feedback, we would really welcome that as well. So we are going to put a link to the feedback in our chat right now. So before you leave, you'll be able to fill out the survey. We are also going to include that in a follow-up message because you may be leaving a bit earlier. But also there's a special survey that's happening. And I'm maybe going to give a floor to Alan. Alan, if you're up for that, to mention the survey, or Alethea, who would like to talk about our special AlphaPlus survey?
I can, Alan, you can, but I can I mean, it's a form that is about AlphaPlus as an organization. We are working with a group, pro bono group, that is also a nonprofit, and they work specifically with other nonprofits in trying to do research and trying to support them to become, to improve their services, for example. And so they are working with us and providing us with a team of 6 consultants to help us imagine how we can better exist and thrive as an organization to better support our customers and the field. So they're conducting some research, and we would love it if anybody were able to take the time to respond to those questions. So I've dropped the link in the chat as well, since I guess they can't click the screen. So I've just put it in the chat. But Alan, if there's anything else that you would like to add, that, yeah, you can, but that's kind of an additional, I guess, part survey we would appreciate. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for us and for the field, because these kinds of engagements with these free consultants at this level are hard to get. And so it's a real opportunity for the whole AlphaPlus team to learn from these people from outside of LBS, what kinds of things we might implement and changes we might make going forward. So if you can help us gather some information, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, everyone.
And the last thing, we are just going to mention this again, achievement badges. So that's another thing we may be mentioning in our next session in terms of extra tools and things you could be doing to engage your learners. We really hope you enjoy the sessions, and if you would like, we will send you achievement badge for participating in our virtual showcase session. So this is just an example of one that we will be sending out to those who registered and participated in our session today. But there will be more to come, and then we will be happy to share more information and ideas with you on those badges. I know Tracy and a lot of instructors are using open badges and badges right now, but not everybody knows how they work and what they could be used for. So we thought we'd just kind of get you hooked a bit on the idea and share that with you a bit later as well. So stay tuned for more information on that. All right. And I think that's it. Alethea, sorry, I just kind of took over this part. I apologize. I'll hand it back to you so we can wrap up for today if you would like.
No, I think that was planned. So no, thank you for that. And thank you to all the participants. I know a lot of people had to leave early, so but thank you for the champions who were able to stick to the end. Thank you so much to our ASL interpreters. I know it was not so easy because there was a lot of back and forth and question and answers and following the chat, etc. So thank you so much for following the flow with us, and appreciate all the participants being so insightful in the chat section as well. Tracy doing a great job moderating all the questions, and then, yeah, the participants sharing, and of course the guests. We're really, really honored that you joined us for the inaugural virtual, this first session, kicking us off really in such a great way, and I think giving us all the desire to learn more and to keep experimenting in the field and learning from one another as we navigate these challenging times. So thank you so much. And thank you to the whole AlphaPlus team and everyone. The list can go on. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Almost 4 o'clock, right on time. Enjoy the rest of the day, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Take care, everyone.
Have a great afternoon, everyone, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Now let
Thank
me
you,
see.
Monica, and the team.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing so that way we can still see who is here with us. Okay. Awesome. Perfect. How many more? So Swati is still here, Ahiva is here, and Tracy. I'm going to stop the
Yes.
recording.